In the year 630, Talha ibn Ubaydullah stood before a decisive moment that would shape the future of the Muslim Ummah. With only 200 men at his side, he faced the formidable army of the Banu Qurayza, a Jewish tribe that had betrayed the Muslims in Medina during the Battle of the Trench. The fate of the Muslim community hung in the balance, for if the Banu Qurayza were to join forces with the Quraysh of Mecca, the very existence of Islam would be threatened. As Al-Tabari recorded in his Tarikh al-Rusul wa al-Muluk, the Banu Qurayza had secretly allied themselves with the Meccan forces led by Abu Sufyan. Their betrayal was a brutal stab in the back, for they had previously signed a treaty with the Prophet Muhammad, pledging their neutrality in the conflict. Now, with the Meccan army besieging Medina, the Banu Qurayza saw their chance to strike and break the back of the Muslim community. The stakes could not have been higher. If Talha and his small band of warriors failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. Medina would fall, the Prophet would be in grave danger, and the fledgling Muslim state would be extinguished before it had a chance to flourish. The strategic challenge was daunting. The Banu Qurayza were well fortified within their strongholds, and their numbers were significant. According to Ibn al-Athir in Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, they had gathered a force of 800 trained warriors, ready to launch a surprise attack on the Muslims from within Medina itself. Talha, known for his wisdom and bravery, knew that direct confrontation would lead to certain defeat. He needed a strategy that would neutralize the threat without engaging in a full-scale battle. His tactical reasoning was clear. He would infiltrate the Banu Qurayza strongholds under the cover of darkness and disable their ability to launch an attack. This required precise planning and unwavering resolve. According to Al-Tabari, Talha and his men moved stealthily through the streets of Medina, their hearts filled with the strength of their faith. They knew that Allah was with them, guiding their steps and shielding them from harm. As they approached the Banu Qurayza strongholds, they encountered fierce resistance. The guards, alert to the possibility of an attack, were ready to defend their positions. Talha's men fought with the ferocity of lions, their every move driven by the knowledge that the future of Islam depended on their success. In a moment of real difficulty, Talha found himself face to face with the Banu Qurayza's leader, Talha ibn Ubaydullah. The two men locked eyes, each understanding the gravity of the situation. Talha, realizing the futility of his betrayal, attempted to negotiate, but Talha stood firm. Allah has decreed that justice be done, he declared, his voice steady and unwavering. Your betrayal cannot go unpunished. The resolution came swiftly. Talha's men successfully disabled the Banu Qurayza's defenses, capturing key positions and thwarting their plans to attack the Muslims. The Banu Qurayza, realizing that their plot had been foiled, surrendered to the Prophet. Their fate was sealed, and their betrayal would serve as a stark reminder of the consequences of treachery. But the victory was not without its challenges. The Prophet, faced with the difficult task of judging the Banu Qurayza, turned to the respected leader of the Aws tribe, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, who had been wounded in the Battle of the Trench. Sa'd, recognizing the gravity of the situation, delivered a verdict that would shape the future of Medina. He ruled that the men of the Banu Qurayza should be executed and their women and children taken as captives. This decision, though harsh, was necessary to ensure the security and stability of the Muslim community. As the dust settled, Talha ibn Ubaydullah stood as a beacon of courage and wisdom, his actions guided by his unwavering faith in Allah. His strategic brilliance had saved Medina from a catastrophic betrayal, and his name would be etched in the annals of Islamic history as a hero of the faith. But the story of Talha was far from over. New challenges loomed on the horizon. and the Muslim Ummah would once again turn to him for guidance and leadership. 500 men stood against 200,000, and by dawn, the fate of the Persian Empire hung in the balance. This was the Battle of Al-Qadisiyyah, a clash so monumental it would echo through history. But how did such a small force dare challenge the mighty Sassanid Empire? The answer lies in the unshakable faith and strategic genius of the early Muslims, led by commanders forged in the fires of war and tempered by the wisdom of the Prophet Muhammad. As Al-Tabari recorded in his Tarikh al-Rusul al-Muluk, the Persian Empire, known for its vast wealth and formidable army, saw the Muslim forces advancing toward Iraq. The city of Al-Mada'in, the heart of Persian power, was their ultimate target. However, the path was fraught with danger, particularly the fortified city of Al-Qadisiyyah, which stood as a barrier to further Muslim expansion. The Persian commander, Rustam Farrakhzad, marshaled an army of 200,000 men, determined to halt the Muslim advance once and for all. The stakes were impossibly high. If the Muslims failed, their hard-won gains in Iraq would be lost, and the momentum of their expansion would be broken. Failure was not an option. The Muslim forces, numbering around 500, were led by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, a companion of the Prophet known for his piety and wisdom. Among his trusted commanders was Talha ibn Ubaydullah, a man whose bravery and tactical acumen had already been proven in numerous battles. The strategic challenge was immense. The Persian army was not only vastly superior in numbers, but also equipped with advanced siege weapons and heavily armored cavalry. The terrain around Al-Qadisiyyah was flat and open, favoring the Persians' numerical advantage. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas knew that a direct confrontation would be suicidal. He needed a strategy that could neutralize the Persians' strengths and exploit their weaknesses. As Ibn al-Athir notes in Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas devised a plan that relied on careful maneuvering and psychological warfare. He ordered his men to dig trenches around their encampment, a tactic inspired by the Prophet's strategy during the Battle of the Trench in Medina. This would force the Persians to attack from a narrow front, reducing their numerical advantage. Additionally, Sa'd sent scouts to gather intelligence on the Persian army's movements and morale. The crisis came when the Persian forces, led by Rustam, launched a massive assault. The trenches proved effective, but the Persian army's sheer numbers began to overwhelm the Muslim defenders. According to Al-Tabari, at one point, the Persians nearly broke through the lines, and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas had to rally his men personally to hold the position. The situation was desperate, and doubt began to creep into the hearts of some of the Muslim soldiers. It was in this moment of crisis that Talha ibn Ubaydullah's leadership shone brightest. As Ibn Kathir recounts in Al-Bidaya al-Nihaya, Talha rallied his men with a stirring speech, reminding them of their duty to Allah and the Prophet. He led a counterattack that regained the lost ground and boosted the morale of the Muslim forces. The Persian assault was repelled, and the momentum of the battle shifted. The resolution came when Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas launched a daring nighttime raid on the Persian camp. As Ibn al-Athir recorded, the raid sowed confusion and fear among the Persian ranks. Rustam, the Persian commander, was killed during the chaos, and the Persian army, leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. By dawn, the once formidable Persian force was in full flight, leaving behind a battlefield littered with the remnants of their defeat. But the story did not end there. The Persians, though defeated, were not yet broken. As the Muslim forces consolidated their victory, reports began to filter in of Persian reinforcements gathering in the east. The war was far from over, and new challenges lay ahead. The Battle of Al-Qadisiyyah had been won, but the struggle for Iraq and the wider region continued. With 12,000 men against a Persian empire that could mobilize 100,000, the Muslim army stood at a crossroads. The victory at Al-Qadisiyyah had been decisive, but the road to the heart of Persia lay ahead, fraught with peril and uncertainty. The strategic city of Mada'in, the royal seat of the Persian kings, was the next objective. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in his Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, the Muslims were determined to press their advantage, but the challenges were immense. The Persian Empire, though reeling from its defeat, was far from broken. The vast plains of Iraq and the fortified cities along the Tigris River posed significant obstacles. The Muslims, under the leadership of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, were outnumbered but buoyed by their faith and the momentum of their recent victories. The stakes were clear. Failure to secure Mada'in would allow the Persians to regroup, rallying their forces and potentially reversing the gains made at Al-Qadisiyyah. Talha ibn Ubaydullah, known for his bravery and tactical acumen, was at the forefront of the Muslim vanguard. The Persians had retreated to Mada'in, a city of immense strategic importance. The Muslims needed to secure this stronghold to cut off Persian reinforcements and solidify their control over the region. Talha's role was pivotal. He was tasked with leading a force to engage the Persian remnants and secure the city. The terrain was challenging, with the Euphrates River serving as both a natural barrier and a potential route for supplies. Al-Tabari reports in his Tarikh al-Rusul wa al-Muluk that Talha's strategy was rooted in speed and surprise. He chose to advance swiftly, avoiding direct confrontation with the main Persian forces until the opportune moment. His intent was to catch the Persians off guard, exploiting their disarray after the defeat at Al-Qadisiyyah. The Muslims, numbering around 12,000, moved with precision, their sights set on Mada'in. The Persians, though numerically superior, were in disarray, their morale broken by the recent defeat. As the Muslim forces approached Mada'in, Talha faced a moment of doubt. According to Al-Tabari, scouts reported that the Persians had fortified the city walls and prepared for a siege. The Muslims, though formidable, were not equipped for a prolonged siege. The decision was agonizing. Should they press forward and risk heavy losses, or retreat and lose the momentum gained at Al-Qadisiyyah? Talha's faith and reliance on Allah guided him. He chose to press on, trusting in Allah's decree and the resilience of his men. The resolution came swiftly. Talha's forces, under the cover of night, managed to infiltrate the city's defenses. The element of surprise was decisive. The Persians, caught unprepared, were overwhelmed. As Ibn Kathir noted in Al-Bidaya wa al-Nihaya, the Muslims' victory at Mada'in was a turning point, solidifying their control over the region and demoralizing the Persian forces. The city's fall opened the way for further advances into the heart of Persia. But the victory at Mada'in was not the end of the struggle. The Persians, though defeated, were not yet broken. Reports of new Persian reinforcements gathering in the east reached the Muslim camp. The road ahead was still fraught with danger, and the Muslims knew that their greatest challenges lay ahead. The conquest of Persia was far from over, and the Ummah's resilience and faith would be tested time and again. The Islamic army, victorious at Al-Qadisiyyah, now faced a new challenge. With 30,000 men under his command, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas stood before the walls of Al-Mada'in, the imperial capital of the Sasanian Empire. Before him lay the Tigris River, a formidable barrier, and across it, the remnants of the Persian forces, numbering around 20,000. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, The capture of Al-Mada'in was not merely a strategic objective, but a symbolic one. It was the heart of the Persian Empire, and its fall would echo through history. The stakes were clear. Failure to take Al-Mada'in would embolden the Persians, giving them a foothold to regroup and launch counterattacks. The Muslim forces had to secure the city to cement their victory at Al-Qadisiyyah and ensure the collapse of the Sasanian Empire. The city was not just a political center, but a hub of culture and wealth, and its fall would signal the end of an era. Talha ibn Ubaydullah, ever the strategist, understood the gravity of the situation. He knew that a direct assault across the Tigris would be perilous, as the Persians had fortified their positions on the opposite bank. The terrain was difficult, with the river's strong current and the high walls of the city providing natural defenses. Moreover, the Persians were not idle. They were gathering reinforcements, hoping to turn the tide of the war. As Al-Tabari reported in his Tarikh al-Rusul wa al-Muluk, Talha devised a plan that would exploit the Persian overconfidence and the natural advantages of the Muslim forces. Talha's strategy was twofold. First, he ordered the construction of a bridge across the Tigris, a daunting task given the river's width and current. However, Talha reasoned that the Persians would expect a direct assault and would focus their defenses on the bridgehead. Meanwhile, he organized a diversionary force to create confusion and draw the Persian attention away from the main attack. This force would cross the river at a different point, using small boats and undertows, and launch a surprise attack on the Persian flanks. The implementation of this plan was met with initial setbacks. The construction of the bridge was slow, and the Persian archers rained down arrows on the Muslim engineers. As Ibn al-Athir noted, the Persians believed they had the upper hand and that the Muslims would be forced to retreat. However, Talha's faith in Allah and his tactical acumen never wavered. He encouraged his men, reminding them of the promises of Allah and the honor of jihad. The bridge, though slow in construction, was a symbol of the Muslim resolve to overcome any obstacle. The crisis came when the Persian reinforcements arrived. A force of 10,000 fresh troops, led by General Farrukh, joined the defenders of Al-Mada'in. The Persians now outnumbered the Muslims, and the situation seemed dire. According to Al-Tabari, Talha paused. The scouts reported that the Persians were preparing a massive counterattack, aiming to destroy the bridge and cut off the Muslim forces. Talha knew that hesitation would mean defeat. He called for a war council, where he and his commanders discussed the best course of action. In a display of his unwavering faith and leadership, Talha decided to accelerate the attack. He ordered the bridge to be completed as quickly as possible and prepared his troops for a decisive battle. The diversionary force, now ready, would launch their attack simultaneously with the main forces crossing. This coordination was crucial, as it would divide the Persian forces and prevent them from concentrating their strength against the Muslims. The resolution came swiftly. As the diversionary force crossed the river and engaged the Persian flanks, the main Muslim army completed the bridge and launched their assault. The Persians, caught off guard by the simultaneous attacks, were thrown into chaos. Talha's tactics proved successful, as the Muslims gained the upper hand, pushing the Persians back and breaching the city's defenses. The fall of Al-Mada'in was imminent, and the Persian resistance crumbled. Yet, as the dust settled, and the echoes of victory resonated through the streets of Al-Mada'in, a new challenge loomed on the horizon. The letter that arrived that night would change everything. In the year 640, as the Muslims stood triumphant before the gates of Al-Mada'in, the ancient capital of the Persian Empire, a new challenge loomed. The Persian forces, though defeated in open battle, had retreated to the fortified city, where they were joined by reinforcements, swelling their numbers to 40,000. The Muslims, under the command of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, had but 12,000 men. The fate of the conquest hung in the balance. The stakes were monumental. Al-Mada'in was not just a city, it was a symbol of Persian power, a stronghold that had withstood sieges for centuries. If the Muslims failed to take it, the Persian Empire might rally and regain its strength, posing a perpetual threat to the growing Islamic State. The Caliphate, stretching from Syria to Iraq, needed this victory to secure its eastern frontiers. Talha ibn Ubaydullah, one of the most distinguished commanders of the Muslim army, was tasked with leading the vanguard. As Ibn al-Athir recorded, Talha was known for his strategic brilliance and unwavering courage. His task was clear: breach the defenses of Al-Mada'in and force the Persians into submission. The city was protected by the Tigris River to the west and marshlands to the east, making a direct assault nearly impossible. The Persians had also fortified the city with high walls and numerous towers, further complicating the Muslims' efforts. Talha's plan was both audacious and meticulously calculated. He ordered the construction of a bridge across the Tigris River, allowing the Muslim forces to bypass the marshes and approach the city from the north. This maneuver would catch the Persians off guard, as they had not anticipated an attack from that direction. As Al-Tabari recorded in his Tarikh, Talha also dispatched scouts to gather intelligence on the city's defenses and the exact number of Persian troops. He needed to know every weakness, every possible advantage. However, doubts began to creep in. The Persians, aware of the Muslims' presence, had fortified their northern gates with additional soldiers and siege equipment. The scouts reported that the Persians were preparing for a counterattack, ready to strike as soon as the Muslims attempted to breach the walls. Talha found himself at a crossroads. Should he proceed with the assault, risking heavy casualties, or hold back and seek an alternative strategy? According to Ibn al-Athir, Talha turned to prayer. He sought guidance from Allah, reminding himself of the Prophet Muhammad's advice: take counsel with one another. He consulted his commanders, weighing the risks and potential outcomes. The decision was not an easy one, but Talha's faith in Allah's support never wavered. He chose to press forward, trusting in divine assistance and the skill of his men. The battle that followed was fierce. The Muslims, under Talha's leadership, fought with unparalleled bravery. The bridge across the Tigris held firm, allowing the Muslim forces to flood into the city from multiple directions. The Persians, despite their numerical advantage, were caught off guard by the speed and precision of the Muslim attack. The city's defenses crumbled as the Muslims breached the walls and engaged the Persian forces in brutal street fighting. The turning point came when Talha himself led a charge against the Persian commanders. His presence on the battlefield galvanized the Muslim troops, who fought with renewed vigor. The Persians, unable to withstand the relentless assault, began to retreat. The city of Al-Mada'in, once a symbol of Persian might, fell to the Muslims. But as the dust settled, a new threat emerged. News arrived that a fresh Persian army, 50,000 strong, was marching toward Al-Mada'in, intent on reclaiming the city. The Muslims had won a great victory, but the war was far from over. The fate of the eastern frontiers hung in the balance once more. With 10,000 men under his command, Talha ibn Ubaydullah stood at the crossroads of history, his army the sole barrier between the advancing Persian forces and the newly conquered lands of Iraq. The stakes were clear. Failure meant the loss of everything gained, the retreat of the Muslim armies, and the diminution of the rising power of the Islamic State. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in his Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, The Persian Empire, though weakened, was far from defeated. Their king, Yazdegerd III, had rallied his forces and was determined to reclaim his lost territories. Talha's army, a mix of veteran warriors and newer recruits, was a testament to the unity and fervor of the Muslim Ummah. They had marched from Medina, their hearts filled with the spirit of jihad and the desire to spread the message of Islam. Their destination, Egypt, the land of the Coptic Christians and the mighty Byzantine Empire. But before they could turn their gaze westward, they had to secure the east. The city of Cairo, a strategic gem, lay ahead, its walls formidable, its defenders resolute. The challenge before Talha was immense. Cairo was not just a city, it was a fortress, a symbol of Byzantine power in the region. Its streets were narrow, its defenses strong, and its people, a mix of Copts and Greeks, were fiercely loyal to their emperor. Talha knew that a direct assault would be costly, perhaps even disastrous. He needed a strategy that would minimize losses and maximize the element of surprise. As Al-Tabari noted in his Tarikh al-Rusul al-Muluk, Talha was known for his tactical acumen, his ability to think several steps ahead of his enemies. Talha's plan was as bold as it was simple. He would divide his army into two parts. One part, under his direct command, would launch a feint attack on the city's main gates, drawing the defenders out and creating a diversion. The other part, led by his trusted commander, would scale the city's walls under the cover of darkness, opening the gates from within. It was a risky strategy, one that relied on precise timing and utmost secrecy. But Talha was confident in his men, their training, and their unwavering faith. As the night fell, the Muslim army moved into position. The moon cast a silver glow over the city, its light reflecting off the Tigris River that snaked its way through the land. The air was thick with tension, the only sounds the soft rustle of leaves and the distant cry of a night bird. According to Ibn Kathir in Al-Bidaya al-Nihaya, Talha led his men to the city's main gates, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They were ready. The feint attack began at the stroke of midnight. Arrows rained down on the city's walls, their flames illuminating the dark sky. The defenders, taken by surprise, rushed to the gates, their shouts echoing through the narrow streets. Meanwhile, under the cover of the chaos, Talha's other force scaled the walls, their movements silent and swift. They encountered resistance, but their resolve was unshaken. They fought with the strength of their convictions, their every move guided by their faith in Allah. The gates were opened from within, and Talha's main force poured into the city. The defenders, caught between two fronts, were overwhelmed. The city fell, its streets echoing with the cries of the victor and the vanquished. The Muslim army had triumphed, their victory a testament to their unity, their faith, and their strategic brilliance. As Ibn Khaldun observed in Al-Muqaddimah, the capture of Cairo was a turning point, a moment that would shape the future of the Islamic world. But the victory was not without its challenges. The city, though conquered, was far from pacified. The Copts, in particular, were a source of concern. Their loyalty to the Byzantine Empire was deep-seated, their resentment of their new Muslim rulers palpable. Talha knew that he had to tread carefully, that he had to balance strength with mercy, justice with compassion. He issued orders for the protection of the city's inhabitants, their lives and properties to be respected. He sought the counsel of the local leaders, listening to their grievances and addressing them with patience and understanding. Yet, even as Talha worked to secure the city, news reached him of a new threat. A Byzantine army, rumors claimed, was marching towards Cairo, its numbers vast, its resolve unyielding. The letter that arrived that night, its parchment stained with the dirt of the road, would change everything. It spoke of an impending storm, a challenge that would test Talha's leadership, his faith, and his strategic brilliance like never before.